Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be bringing you my reaction to Percy Jackson Season 1, Episode 1, titled I Accidentally Vaporized My Pre-Algebra Teacher. Expelled from school, Percy Jackson unravels who he is, confronting a world of gods and monsters. Now, I had to double check that, but that is actually the name of the first chapter in the book, which really shows just how much they're paying attention to this show. Because I knew that the title for the second episode, which also dropped today, was a chapter from the book. And specifically, that's the chapter 6 title. So either this goes through 5 chapters or 74 pages worth of the book when there's only 22 chapters total, or they're picking a title from part way through the next episode for episode 2. But yeah, as I've said before in various other reaction content or just other videos in my channel, this is my favorite book series. Specifically the Percy Jackson, because I've had this book half my life. I got it for it and the entire box set for the first series when I was in grade 5, so the year I turned 11, specifically for my 11th birthday. And I have read them at least once a year since that point. So I've read these multiple times. I've read the second series multiple times. I can't get into Kane Chronicles. I've read Trials of Apollo, at least the first 2 books, a couple times because I was rereading them as they were coming out. And yes, the Magnus Chase books I love. So pretty much every book from this universe, except for the Egyptian ones, I thoroughly enjoy and have reread, or at least am planning to reread, which is very rare for me. I don't like rereading books usually. So, yeah, this is my main hyperfixation, is Percy Jackson. And with all the excitement about this, I haven't put out any videos about this. I haven't touched any of the controversies or anything about the development of this because I don't care. I'm glad that Rick is a part of this, and if he says that this is going to be good, then I trust him. So, let's get this started in 3, 2, 1, go. That was always going to be the first line. It's dangerous. It's scary. Mostly gets you killed in very nasty ways. I've got the opening song from the musical running through my head now. Why do I have a feeling this is his prior school? No, not quite the prior school. I was so confused about that scene from the. Is that Blackjack or. Interesting. So they're showcasing the mist, how it works on demigods as well as mortals. I'm assuming that's myth or magic. The hero Perseus. One of the few. Hmm? The pen is mightier than the sword. Hmm. Hmm. That was a nice transition. I would say that more looks like a harpy than a fury, but hmm. Interesting. I'm curious as to why they didn't have it actually looked like the water grabbed her. It looked more telekinesis than. No, I'm saying I did it. Hmm. Interesting. I thought Grover was going to take that. This is happening a bit different than how it did in the book. There's at least two notable scenes that weren't in there, but hmm. A little bit of a change. Also, he's meant to be the head of a appliance business. Gabe is very different than he is in the book. Interesting. Hmm. I thought that was going to be the. No, wait, that's. I remember the dream I was thinking of, not. I thought that was the one with the animals fighting on the um, beach, but that's just before he gets woken up when they're already in the cabin. Mm, everything. No. Lowercase g. Someone's panicking. Um, yeah, considers age at about half the rate of humans. Hmm. Hmm. remember the main beats. I forget if this is how she distracts. One thing I remember is Grover's meant to be like half conscious at the moment. Percy's not meant to have his sword at the moment. Yeah, this is how it happened. It was a little more brutal that it happened. I meant to stab him in the ribs, not through the eye. Hmm. So already there's been some changes. Hmm. These credits give the whole story. Interesting. Hmm. It's also alluding to some of the changes that we already know from the trailers and that. Because for some reason that had Hermes at the Lotus Hotel, which we know is something that happens. I have a feeling this may be a this season on, or maybe just a thing for the next episode. Okay, so that was very entertaining to watch. In my saying that it already has some changes from the book, it is still very faithful. Like, Percy was meant to be there for a bit longer after the incident at the museum. He was meant to be at Yancey for a while longer because Grover is meant to be trying to gaslight him into believing that there was no math teacher, there was no Mrs. Dodds or anything. At one point, he goes to speak to Chiron. He goes to speak to Mr. Brunner. I should not have said that. Normally, I'm good with the slip-ups. He goes to speak with Mr. Brunner, and he actually sees through the hears Grover and him talking in Mr. Brunner's classroom, and he hears what he thinks may be hoofbeats and a massive shadow pass in front of the window to the room, and he leaves. Gabe is very interesting. He's meant to just be a complete ass. Like, well, for one, he's meant to have a job. He's the I forget if he's the regional manager of the appliance store or if he's just the manager. But yeah, he's meant to own a business, and that he's not meant to be doing online poker. He's meant to be having his friends round playing actual poker, including Eddie, the superintendent. Not superintendent, the whatever, the super of the building. He's part of those games. Sally would not have spoken back to him like that in manners other than relating to Percy, not in the just argument about, oh, do not speak to me like that or I'm not going to get you the peppers on your sandwich and that. She actually offered him her famous 7-layer dip before they left. Like, she made it and that before they left. And that was meant to tide Gabe over while they were gone. Percy and Grover are meant to leave Yancey Academy together, and Percy actually ditches him at the bus stop to go home by himself when Grover tells him to just wait for him to return. Yeah, Percy goes off on his own. That's what separates Percy and Grover, not Grover saying that Percy attacked Nancy. Attack with Mrs. Dodds happened in the museum, not outside. Kyra took the pen back. I've already spoiled that. Mr. Brunner is Chiron. He took the pen back after the events. Like, he's like, you know, you said you needed a pen. That doesn't mean you get to keep mine. Or something along those lines. At Montauk, Percy's meant to be asleep. He has a dream of two big animals, I forget the specific ones, fighting on the beach, and they flash between the animals and humans. And then he's woken up by Grover pounding on the door, telling him that he's being chased by the... Well, he doesn't say he's being chased by the Minotaur, but he says that they're in danger. Percy isn't meant to know until in the car that Grover's a satyr. And after the car crashes, well, for one, it gets hit by lightning, and for two, Grover's meant to be half unconscious. Like, that's why he fails in protecting Percy because Grover's unconscious, Sally dies, and Percy, after snapping the Minotaur's horn off and stabbing it in the side, passes out and has to be brought in by other campers. And that's why Grover fails in protecting him. But, yeah. While these aren't big, like, plot changes and everything, they are interesting to note that even in the first episode, there's been that many. Because, as I said, this encompasses the first 4 chapters, which 22 divided by 8, that's a little over, well, under 3. I was going to say a little over 2.5. But, yeah. So, because this is meant to be, again, this is doing something that the movie did, in that it glosses over one major thing that I also forgot happened this early in the... I thought that was in the second bus trip. No. So this is... I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. Grover unexpectedly loses his pants. And my mother teaches me bullfighting. Chapters 1, 3, and 4. Myth and Magic didn't get introduced till the 3rd. But, page 16. Yeah, the first chapter ends with them saying, there's no Mrs. Dodds on this trip. As far as I know, there's never been a Mrs. Dodds at Yancey's Academy. Then it goes into the whole Grover trying to gaslight him while they finish the semester at... Yeah. The headmistress sent my mum a letter the following week making it official. I would not be invited back to next year at Yancey, so he finishes the year out at Nancy because they're near the end of the year. And so, over that time, Mr. Brunner and Grover, they tell him that there was no Mrs. Dodds, he imagined it and everything. And then, after they leave, after they leave, there's meant to be a bus trip back to... Well, for one, there's the whole overhearing Grover and Mr. Brunner talking, so he has some terms that he shouldn't know about, and he tries to catch Grover out on his lies and everything, like calling the Furies the kindly ones. Knowing about the summer solstice deadline. That. Grover's meant to hand him a business card that's like Grover Underwood, Keeper, Half-Blood Hill, Long Island, New York. There's meant to be the scene where he sees the fates and that, which happens in chapter 2. And that's pretty much everything. That's the chapter, and he ends that. He ditches Grover when they get to the bus terminal, goes home, and then pretty much everything else that happened in this episode happened in those next 2 chapters. So really it is. They just took chapter 2 out and mixed and connected 1, 3, and 4. Which I guess, given the fact that I said it's between 2.5 and 3 chapters a episode, that does work with timing because it means they only did 3 chapters this episode. But yeah. Right, one thing I was going to say. The chapter, my mum teaches me bullfighting. Obviously, Sally tells him that, hey, if the Minotaur charges you and that, sidestep at the last minute. It has very poor turning capabilities. So just she knew she wasn't going to be able to hold it off for long, and so she I don't know. Huh. Right. Percy was meant to tell Sally about everything that happened with Mrs. Dodds, with the seeing the fates and everything, while he was at Montauk. And Grover does show up as in his Seder form. I did not remember that. They completely glossed over the fact that he's meant to have a lilting gait because of the um, trotting in that from the state of feet not fitting in normal shoes. Let's see. How does she distract the? Yeah. Yeah, the car gets hit by lightning, and that is how they get run off the road. Let's see. Yeah, Grover is basically unconscious. He's got blood trickling from the side of his mouth. He's muttering about food and that. She tells him to take Grover up to the tree, which we saw. That was the border of the camp. Well, she distracts it. He says he's not leaving her, then she needs to help him with Grover. That's when they learn that it's the Minotaur in that. His terrible eyesight and hearing. He goes by smell. Car explodes. Because she never told Percy about the Half-Blood. She tried to keep him away from all the stories and that. He hits the barrier and she stops. She tries to sidestep, but she's caught by the monster and he kills her. Then we have the fight between Percy and the Minotaur, where he's dodging. He dazes it against a tree, I think. And yeah, snaps the horn off, stabs it in the side, passes out, gets found by campers and that. And that's what happened. That's what happened so far in the book. I remembered the big beats. There were the minor details of how they actually flowed together that I sometimes forget. But yeah, so far, despite the changes, it's been faithful. No, despite the changes, it's been good, and it is clearly telling the same story. Like, it's not using the IP and then taking major creative liberties with it. No, this is very clearly a passion project from people who care about the books. And I'm very interested to see what happens next. But, well, I have another episode that I could jump straight into. I'll catch you in the next one.